Yes, we are live. Just wait for a while before people join in so that we can move on, and then I can have Abreshmina join in as well. Just waiting for our viewers to join in. I could just try sharing, posting. Yep, there you go. Yes, that's exactly, guys, what we're talking about today. But before we get into talking about football and the women's team, Gokulam Kerala FC in Asia, and then the national team in South America, which will happen next week. We were met by some sad news just a moment ago, where one of the renowned names in Indian football, Novy Kapadia, was taken away from us a few moments ago. He was battling various illness and was admitted to the hospital a few months ago. He was what we learn is that he was on ventilator for a month. Was on ventilator since a month, and he fled this last today. So our homage and our respect go out to one man who drew us to the beautiful game in India through his commentary stints and the various stories that he wrote in various publications, and one of a well documented books that covers the entire history, if not everything, on Indian football, Barefoots to Football, written by Novy Kapadia. So his contribution is immense. His contribution to this game in the country cannot be measured, it's immeasurable. Abreshmina has had the opportunity to meet him during her time in Delhi as a journalist. I have had the opportunity to speak with him. Unfortunately, I'm one of those fellows who could never meet him in person, but I've had a few conversations over the phone with him. So we'll be talking about that today, paying homage to his legacy and to the man Novy Kapadia was to Indian football. Just try to get in Abreshmina if she's already here. We'll send Abreshmina a request and hoping that she could join us. She will join us pretty soon. Well, guys, if you, your memories, if you want to share with us of Novy Kapadia and how he played a role in you being a fan of Indian football, drop us that in the comments. Take. Yeah, Abreshmina, I have sent you a request. If you can accept it and join me on the session, that would be great. Hey, Abreshmina, hi.
Hi.
Hi. Like I was telling viewers a while ago, not the best of starts to our session today, because just a moment ago we were met with the news of one of the legends of the game in the country, Novy Kapadia, leaving us, passing away. It's a somber occasion, yes, but that man has played a very crucial role, especially in yours and mine life when we began first as Indian football fans, and then we got into this profession. Right, one of the most easily accessible and one of the most readily available person to help you when it came to Indian football and things that you wanted to know from him. You being in Delhi, you met him. How would you remember him?
Honestly, I'd always remember him as a very lively and chirpy person, always ready to help, always. Like, you can give him a call about something very little, and he would be happy to tell you why your question is not stupid and it's not little, and go on to explain over it for hours. I mean, I can never forget the day I first met Novi sir. It was my first assignment as a sports journalist, and I was covering the ISL game, my first ISL game that I covered. And you know, the sexism in this industry is quite ingrained. So yes, there were journalists who because I was the only girl in the room, and they looked at me as if I didn't know anything, and where has she come from? And then there was Novi sir, who knows like 100% more than these guys, and he came up and spoke to me because he was like, I haven't seen you before, beta. Where have you come? Where have you come from? Is this your first? And I mean, and I looked at him and I knew who he was. And for a moment, I was sitting there starstruck, as in, why is Novi sir talking to me? Who am I? But he was that person. He would never differentiate that somebody is starting out and somebody is, established. So it's like when I heard this news, I didn't know how to react, to be very honest. I mean, I so wish I could have met him. Uh, but I mean, I think none of us really went to meet him because he was so fragile and we're all living in COVID times and we didn't want anything wrong to happen because of us. So I don't think because of that, I don't think any of us were able to go. But it breaks my heart to know that I couldn't meet him for the last time. It's like it's so heavy. It feels very
It is.
heavy. I mean, the like everybody calls him, the voice of Indian football is gone, and
Absolutely.
like a huge chunk of history. I mean, he may have written about it, he may have spoken for it, like spoken about it for ages, but there are his enthusiasm, and there are things that would never be there anymore because he's gone. It's just terrible. It's devastating.
Rightly said, Abreshmina. Like, I remember this because his energy always rubbed onto you when
Yeah,
you were with him. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, I was telling the viewers earlier that I never had an opportunity to meet him, but I have had a few interesting phone conversations with him. So,
hmm.
this is from the second season of the ISL, which was my first season of the ISL, and I
Yeah,
was asked to write the the season preview, and just a year into the profession, I was wondering what to write, how to go about it. I always knew of Novy Kapadia. I've always read about him. I've heard him while watching the NFL matches on Z Sports, but never thought that I would end up speaking with him, and never thought that when I called him out of the blue one fine day, that this man would just pick up his call and then sit down and talk to me for like good 45 minutes, telling me everything that I should know while approaching a
yeah,
competition like the ISL, because back then it was not the league, it was just a 3 month competition, right? So,
yeah,
and since then, that's been a routine for me. Like everything, every time I wanted something, I wanted to know something about the game, I would call him and he would readily sit down and explain. Never felt like it never gave you an impression that he was doing you a favor. It never
yeah,
felt like
exactly.
it never felt like that he was a busy person and was just taking time out of his busy schedule. It never felt like that. It was like talking. It was like talking to your senior because you approach him with that kind of respect. But then you speak to him for 5-10 minutes and you forget that this man is someone who's followed the sport for over 3 decades, who's commentated and written about it for over 3 decades. It just felt like you were talking to a colleague of yours who's along with you in the
Yeah,
profession. It just kicked off with you, right? That's the best part about Novy Kapadia. Like you said, like he would have written a book about it, and he would have spoken about it at various platforms. But every moment, every time that you spoke to him, there would be a new story for you. There,
exactly,
there would be
exactly.
something new that he could add, and you just sit back and wonder, how does this man remember all of this? Because
Exactly, exactly. Even every time you'd have a conversation, you'd be like, how big is his head that he has all of this stored so wonderfully? With that emotion behind every move, behind every game, behind every player. I mean, it was just astonishing. I mean, we're all so blessed to have had any sort of communication with him or have had
absolutely,
that time with him to get even the tiniest bit of knowledge, about Indian football from him. I mean, it's just so lucky. And it's
Ab-
sad that this, the next gen that would come up would not really know Novi Kapadia. It's just
right.
like, I hope
Abs-
we can. disseminate this information of how huge Novy Kapadia was and how important a role he actually played in, making Indian football what it is today in terms of
Yeah,
communication.
absolutely.
I don't think any of us would have, you know, been in this profession or maybe, traveled through it and loved Indian football so much if not for him. The
Absolutely.
way he used to describe the matches, the way he used to commentate, the way he used to talk about it. I mean,
Just
we're
gave you
all
goosebumps at
so going to
times.
miss it, yeah. So, like,
Absolutely.
it's
And remember,
difficult.
he came from an era where documentation, when it came to Indian football, was next to nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
He made an effort to ensure that there was some sort of documentation, some sort of archive that people could refer to. Today, for us, it's the Novy Kapadia book that if you want to know anything from the past, that's one book that we
yes,
always refer to.
absolutely.
It's
Barefoot
a
to Boots, guys. Anybody who hasn't read it, please do.
yes, absolutely. That's one archive that it's more than a book. It's an archive of stories from
It
the
is.
past, from a generation, from a time where documentation was not a big deal in Indian football. And also remember, this was a period where telecast was not huge. You think we are struggling for telecast today? Imagine the scene 30 to 40 years ago when
Correct.
things were not even what it was. So this is from a man who was there at the ground, who was at the stadium, watching these matches
Exactly.
and writing about it,
Every other,
talking
every
about
other.
it. Absolutely, absolutely. And like you said, it's a sad scene that the coming generation won't know who Novy Kapadia was and what his contribution to the game in India especially is. But I think that's where people like you and me have to step in and ensure that his
Absolutely.
his word continues to ring in the ears of people who follow this game and everything that he's contributed. On that note, I think that's exactly what we are doing here, right? We are talking about
Yeah.
the game. We are talking about the Indian side of the game, not just the beautiful game, but the Indian side of the beautiful game. And over the past few weeks, there have been some good developments. There have been talk worthy developments in women's football. You had Gokulam Kerala FC who competed in that pilot project of the AFC Women's Club Championships, and then the women's national team will be traveling to South America to take on heavyweights like Brazil, Venezuela, and Chile in a four nation competition. Remember, this is the build up to the Asian Cup, which India will be hosting early next year. We'll get to the national team in a bit, but first up, Abreshmina, a competition that we all were eagerly waiting for because Gokulam Kerala FC or women's football in India hadn't happened for a very long time. Yes, COVID-19 pandemic played a big role in that, but beyond that, there were also other reasons why the women's football, the Indian Women's League did not happen in the country. And in such a circumstance, Gokulam Kerala FC competing in an Asian competition and putting up the kind of performance which they did. What were your takeaways from the entire 2 weeks?
Um, Takeaways, I would say, I think they'd come back with a lot of learnings, probably more understanding of where they stand in terms of, in Asia, where they stand as a team, where Indian football stands in comparison to, other Asian nations. Um, I honestly felt like um, they weren't very prepared to to play the kind of football that they would be up against. Um, their first match, and again, I think it kind of showed endurance and intensity and mindset for me when I think they performed pretty well in the first game, but when they came up in the second game against Shadri, like they were disappointing to say the least. That was one game where I felt like they were the worst. Out of all the three games that they played, they were the worst in the game against Shadri. Probably, Shadri obviously sprung a surprise in the first game, but I still think, given where Iranian football stands in Asia, I I don't know why I felt like um, they were supposed to win the game.
Got it.
And when you talk about Iranian football, be it men's or women's, you know there's going to be physicality. You
Absolutely.
know they're going to hold their shape. It's in their culture. Maybe, yes, the women's team has started, then you wouldn't call them very regular or something, or you wouldn't say that they've been playing very well since ages or something. It's pretty recent. Uh, but football is in Iran's culture. So, be it a guy or a girl, you know they are going to come with some solid attributes. You know,
Absolutely.
if they play football, they know about it.
Right.
And that is what Shadri showed. I won't say they were great or something. I mean, they were also very decent, mixed. But what I felt even against Gokulam, what they did very well was hold their shape and not let Gokulam have the joy of playing around,
Right.
playing the game. They disrupted that very, very well.
Mhm.
Um, and then when they got their chance, I felt they were very quick, and the Gokulam defenders were slow to react.
Okay. All right.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah. So
and go on.
before
Sorry.
before we move on to Bunyotkar and the last match, which they eventually ended up winning, talking a bit about Shadri, I remember we had a pre-competition preview on the Humans of Indian Football along with Siju from Humans of Indian Football on their handle. Basically, one thing that really stood out from that conversation was we actually did not know what to expect from Shadri. we we
Yeah,
we knew Aman would be tough. We knew Bunyotkar would put up a challenge, but we never knew what we could expect from Shadri. Especially for me, I was looking at Shadri primarily because women players coming from Iran, coming from the problems that they faced in the country, coming out and playing at the Asian, that itself was a big deal for me. But
correct.
to come out and play the way they did,
Hmm,
that really put a smile on my face. It was really pleasing to see.
that's true.
Yes, Gokulam Kerala was at the receiving end of that, but overall, a bird's eye view of
Yeah.
the entire competition, it was really good to see Shadri play. So, was your assessment also a bit tilted because we did not know how good or how bad Shadri would be?
Yeah, I mean, very honestly, I did not expect them to win that first game. It was a brilliant surprise. I'd always say that because, yes, like you, I also kind of see it a bit from the social point of view of where these women are coming from and going on a global platform and, playing that game. Um, it's it's pretty remarkable.
Right,
It's so, to see them, we would, there's one thing when you come from a place where, you may not necessarily have all the freedom that you want. You're used to fighting for every little bit, and that
absolutely.
shows in your football also.
Right,
And that's exactly what Shadri produced. They weren't great footballers. They weren't extremely good with the ball or with their feet or with their movements. No, but they fought, and they fought hard. And with these teams that fight really hard, you always know you're going to have a very difficult time.
right,
So, I've it was great to see. I mean, if you saw the celebrations also that Shadi had after that first game, it was so. I mean, yeah, exactly what you said. It brought a smile to your face to see them, celebrate that way, to see them play that way. And Gokulam obviously were at the receiving end because I don't know. They were just very disrupted that day. They didn't play well at all. They couldn't string passes together. They couldn't. They just couldn't. I also felt they just couldn't handle the physicality that Shadri brought, and they couldn't use their wings.
right.
I in the final game against Bunyotkar, Manisha went to the right, and I think it was Soumya.
Mhm.
Soumya who went to the
Right,
left, and Grace was playing more central. That worked
correct.
for them
Absolutely.
because
And they
because
stood out in
Grace,
that game, in the second half
yeah, because
especially.
Grace is the ball carrier.
Correct.
If you put her, what happened in the first two games was she was on the wings, essentially playing out wide. So when you put her out wide, she's just aimlessly running because she's also trying to defend a lot more and trying to curb
Got it.
advances from the wings.
Got it.
So she just puts her energy into something that she shouldn't be putting her energy in. Her energy and her concentration should be on recovering the ball, holding the shape of the forward line, and taking the ball forward, which is what she did in the final game.
Got it.
And you could see Grace shine over there. And
Absolutely.
Manisha Kalyan, best use of her because she has the physicality, she has the speed. Uh, so using her on the wings in that final game really reap benefits for them because she could put all of her attributes to use. And I think we may kind of see Denby also using that. I hope.
Well, we'll get to that in a bit, but
Yeah.
one more bit about Gokulam Kerala in Asia in that club championships which happened a week ago. What does this exposure actually mean for Indian players in particular? Because foreigners might not stay with the team for long, given their contract is just it's a small contract, primarily catering towards this competition. But these Indian players, most of them, 10 of them, if I have to give out a number, will
Yeah.
be part of the Indian team that will travel to South America. So how much does this exposure of already playing a continental competition, a international competition, I may say,
Yeah.
how much will that help them preparing for that Asian Cup? Because that's the next big thing for them.
Of course, I mean, it brings with it, say, you have match practice, so you're match fit. Then, obviously, I mean, it was a very close, it was very close games. Um, Very tough fight, I would say, from all the teams. So that puts you in good stead in the sense of getting that kind of headspace where we are going to be up against tough opponents, where we are going to have to think all the time on the field. What
Got it.
happens in IWL is there are just certain teams that are better than others. So you don't have to put too much effort in each and every match that you're playing.
And again, in
Right?
those matches, your effort is in phases because it's not the
Exactly.
entirety of 90 minutes that you have to be on your toes. You always get enough time to regroup and to re-energize yourself, and it's only in phases that you need to be really good because matches in especially in IWL, if I'm not wrong, uh, is won or lost in those phases.
Yes, exactly. Which is why I think that whole experience of having to concentrate for the whole of 90 minutes, or having to get that understanding of how to conserve, preserve, and use your energy at the right time. That is something that maybe they've taken out of the games, especially against Shadri, because, like I mentioned, their physicality was too much for the Gokulam players, and I think they would, with them especially, they and Aman also, I would say,
Yep.
they needed to understand when to press, how to go forward, because you wouldn't really have the luxury of having the ball with you all the time. So
Right.
to be able to understand, have just develop a bit more game sense, I feel. So I think
Right.
that is
Right.
something that we'll take out of the competition and hopefully put that in use for the national team as well.
Well, to learn how to play without the ball, that is what is crucial for teams like India when you go into a
Yeah.
international competition like the Asian Cup. But before that, credit where credit is due. AIFF has done its bit to arrange friendlies and competitive matches against teams that matter.
Yeah.
In a week's time, India will be up against Brazil. I need not say how big that match is. Men's
Yes.
team, women's team, it doesn't matter. And
The world number
and
7. They're
absolutely.
great.
And the best part, they've named their best 11. They've named their
Yes,
best
exactly.
team. It's not a makeshift team that Brazil has named for this competition. So you get to play against quality opponents. With Formiga playing her last match, a
Yeah,
woman who's played 7 World Cups and 7 Olympics is bringing her
exactly.
career to an end. She definitely wants to
Against
end on a
India.
high.
Who would have imagined that?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to end on a losing note or on a draw for that
Of
matter.
course. Of course. No, when this was announced by the Brazilian Association, I honestly, very honestly, I didn't think that they would be fielding their best 11.
Okay,
Very honestly, like
okay.
I thought it would be a B team or something, and they're not going to put up their best team. But when they announced the squad, I mean,
Mhm.
I was like, wow, okay,
You have everyone there.
yes, I am scared we're going to get thrashed.
Doesn't matter.
Uh, but I still think the experience that you get out of these kind of games, where you're where you know that all you can or you have to do is uh, just put all your effort in and not worry about the result.
Absolutely.
So in that case, you kind of probably have that luxury of standing there and also understanding how your opponent is playing and learn from
Right.
them, get
Right.
something from them. So I think that is what they're going to get against Brazil and honestly against Chile as well. But Brazil, I mean, it's Mata, Formigo. I mean, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. I'm like so excited. I just hope we get to see the matches.
Well, we'll get to Brazil in a bit, and before that, the Indian team. But there's one thing that I would like to mention here. This takes me back to India's preparation for the 2019 Asian Cup, right? Because just before the competition, AIFF arranged friendlies against teams like China. You had
Yeah,
a Jordan away match just before they landed in UAE for the competition. So I think credit where credit is due. AIFF is doing its bit to ensure that this team is well prepared before going into that Asian Cup.
yeah,
But coming into the 23-member team that Denebri has named, one of the biggest talking points which you had tweeted out was Kamla Devis' return to the team. Uh,
yes.
First up, tell us why is it so big?
Okay, so Kamla was part of that seven women group that had their tiff with Chauba and like to an extent Memol as well.
Right,
Not Chauba was the main person, and obviously along with her, it came a tiff with Memol also, and they were frozen out of the group. They themselves also stepped out, and even though I think Bala Panthoy, they came back. Kamla had refused to apologize. She did not want to apologize, and she never got a call up after that,
got it.
despite putting up a very good performance, putting very good performances in both the IWL and the senior nationals. After which Bala got the call.
Right,
Um, Kamla didn't get the call, and when I had spoken to her, she had clearly said that they wanted a sorry, and I don't want to say that because I don't think it was my fault. So to see her name in the squad after, like personally also knowing what she's been through and
right,
having spoken to her pretty regularly about, you know, how does she maintain any sort of drive to say practice football or maintain fitness or
right,
whatever. I mean, these things, just to know, that she's been trying to do her bit without even thinking about whether she's ever going to get a national call up again is was amazing. And then to see her get that call up is absolutely sensational. If I
absolutely.
may use that word, I was very happy. I even texted her and congratulated her because I'm very very happy to see her back. And honestly, I feel that says a lot about Deneby. For me, that says a lot about him. Like what Kamla's call up shows to me is he doesn't care what has happened before.
Right.
He just wants who he wants in the team.
It's a selection on
It's
merit.
meritocratic. It's meritocratic,
Absolutely. Right.
and that's something that I'm very happy to see because
Right.
no, not necessarily in Indian football. It's always like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This 23 member squad, how do you look at this team? Weaknesses in any areas, or is this the best that India could afford at this moment?
Obviously, I mean, we've all read about Sangeeta getting injured, having that ACL injury, which is huge because she is the only good holding midfielder that we have.
Right.
We actually don't have anyone in that position. So it's going to be pretty difficult for Deneby to work around and figure out what he wants to do now that Sangeeta is out. So obviously, not the best 11. Aditi, I am really hoping she gets out of that whole bit that happened at
Right.
Gokulam, and
Right.
because what I feel about Aditi, I think she'll have to go back to those videos and watch where she went wrong
Right.
and try and not make those mistakes again because I mean, even in terms of the Aman second goal, the free kick goal,
Right.
she was at fault, and obviously, I mean that foul was, I mean, she shouldn't have, and she didn't need to go for that
Right.
challenge at all. And then her knee was way too high. So I think she'd obviously know that, and these are things that she'd have to work on. Shreya is out. She was in the UAE tour squad, but instead of her, we have Soumya. So I mean, I maybe Denaby did notice something in Shreya that uh, he wants to work more on. Uh, maybe just the movement, because when she came on for Gokulam, in place of Aditi, she was not good.
Okay.
Very honestly. Um, I think uh, the goal that we conceded right after Aditi's red card was quite a bit Soumya's fault. I mean, she should have saved that. She
All
didn't
right.
even move. So Shreya was at fault over there, and I think maybe that's something that Denaby wants to work on, and he's noticed her.
All right.
Apart from that, Michelle Castana has been dropped. She was also part of the Gokulam defense.
Right.
Astam has been dropped. Astam was part of his under 17
Right.
World Cup squad also. So Astam has been dropped, and from that under 17 squad, even Sumati Kumari has been dropped.
Correct.
So, I mean, these are things that show me even more that he is looking at what these players are doing in both training and
Right.
matches, and deciding according to that who he wants to go ahead. He does not have, like, okay, I have decided these are the players, so these are going to be the players.
Got it.
Everybody else can, just
Got it.
go rest, do whatever you want to do. I'm never going to select you. He's not doing that. I think he's just
Got it.
looking at everybody
Right.
and deciding on the basis of different performances, which I find extremely good. Sandhya being dropped is a bit of a surprise. I mean,
Do
she
you
does
do you
need.
s- do you look at it as a rotation because he's trying to he's looking at trying out other players as well?
Maybe, maybe because I don't think he'll. I don't think after this. No. Kushal Das did say that their AFF is also trying to host a four-nation tournament in December in
Right.
India itself.
Yep.
So I mean that's also going to be one. But yeah, maybe it's rotation. Maybe he's trying players. Um, because Sandhya obviously provides a lot of speed. I mean that I don't think that's something that anybody else kind of has
Okay.
what Sandhya provides. But obviously with speed, I mean, he does in that sense. He has Manisha and
Got it.
Sanju
Got it.
who can who can also provide speed. But yeah, I
All
mean,
right.
it'd be interesting to see what he goes ahead with, because honestly, I do feel, and from what I've heard, Denaby is like players are happy about working with him, and he is able to communicate things pretty well to them.
That's good. That's good to know.
So yeah, so that's yeah, it'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see how they do.
Well, since we spoke about rotation and options that Denabri is looking at and has not already decided on his team for the Asian Cup, which
Mhm.
are those few players who are on the ropes right now going into this the South American leg of their preparations? Players who really have to take this opportunity to make stake their claim for the team for the Asian Cup team.
Mariammal, she's got a call, so that's that. I mean, I'm genuinely also very happy for her. I think she's a very exciting player. So yeah, I mean, she didn't get the call up the previous time. So now
Right.
that she's got a call up, she'll have to take the chance, take the opportunity, and try and cement her place. Apart from that,
Right.
Shilki Devi has also got the call up. She didn't get the previous time. Um, and then obviously, I mean, both Manisha Panna also,
Yep.
she'll have to also take her chance. So even I would say even Soumya, if I'm not sure she's going to get game time as such much,
Okay.
because I still feel Aditi would be the number one choice.
Got it.
But I mean, if she can show uh, she can show her play well even in training, I think it'll put her in good stead. So yeah, I
Right.
mean, I think these
Right.
are players.
Well,
I'm
Abhi,
I'm
that up.
I'm a bit sad for Karishma for missing out once more.
Right.
And that is one conversation that I would genuinely want to have with Tenubi about
I hope you get that opportunity
what
very soon.
what he thinks is missing in Karishma,
Right. Got it.
because
Got it.
I do feel he's meritocratic, so he won't. push out a player unnecessarily. So that is honestly something that I would want to speak to Dennerby about and know, because I personally like Karishma a lot. So I
Definitely,
genuinely
you'll
want
have
to
a
know
good
what.
good reason behind that
Yeah,
decision.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, that about the Indian team, but what about the three opponents Israel playing? Abby, first of Brazil. We spoke about the team a bit in the beginning, a full strength
Yeah.
squad. There is a Formigo who will be playing her last international match against India. This is a player
Yeah.
who's played 7 Olympics, 7 World Cups, is has plenty of goals. I don't remember exactly the number of goals, but has played over 100 matches for Brazil. There's
Yeah.
Marta there, and
You
there are
have the goat,
who else do
Smarta.
you want? Who else do you want? Like, if
Yeah.
you start naming them, that squad itself looks very intimidating. What can you tell us about the Brazilian team?
Like you mentioned, it's definitely intimidating. Like I mentioned, I mean, I'm so excited to see India play against them, but I'm also really scared for our team that they'll get thrashed. I think, I mean, I am not sure. Um, I do think that they'll completely be looking at a defensive mindset because
Okay,
I don't think they have any other choice.
right,
They would need to hold their shape very well
right,
against Brazil because
okay.
obviously superior passing, superior physicality, pretty much everything superior. And what I feel in terms of what Brazil can do is break the lines very easily if
Right,
India slip up even a bit. I think that
yeah.
it will be very easy for them to break the lines.
Like the concentration
So
level for 90 minutes, something that we
yes,
spoke about.
absolutely. It's going to be so crucial and it's going to take so much energy out of them because I mean that is something that FC Goa faced in their ACL
Champions League,
campaign
right?
where the intensity was so much more than the ISL
Okay,
and they had to put so much energy and so much concentration into the whole of 90 minutes
yep.
that 3 games in and they were all tired.
It's
So
draining, right? It's draining.
it's really draining. So, and given how much our women get to play
Yep,
anyway, it's going to be huge. And I
got
mean,
it.
what can we talk about Brazil? I mean,
Well, remember Brazil is coming on the back of a loss and a draw against Matildas, but when they play at home, that doesn't matter. That doesn't count for anything.
nothing,
And
nothing.
and this
And
the
obviously they're going to play against India. I mean, it's going
yeah,
to be obviously they are like they're far, far superior, far,
no,
far superior. And I think they're going to have crowd because based on the tweet that Brazil Association put out, that you've been waiting to see the women's team play, and here you go.
right.
So I think they'll have crowd also, and so it's going to be pretty crazy. I mean, I think it'll be pretty crazy for India also. I mean,
To play in front of crowd, right?
I genuinely think it'll be a great experience. Yeah,
Yeah,
playing against Brazil at their home. I
right.
think I'm not sure there's anything better. I mean, I'm a Brazil supporter, so I don't think there's anything better in the world.
Well, hostile or not, crowd is always good.
Yeah, crowd is always good.
Crowd is
Crowd
always
is.
good.
I don't think there's any player who would ever say that. Oh my God, why did we have the crowd against us, or why did we have so much crowd? I think all players love crowd, be it
I think
against
we are
them
done
or
with I think we are done with that phase because the players had enough playing in front of empty stands. Now they want people.
exactly, exactly, correct, correct. And our women are anyway used to playing against
Correct.
in empty stands, sadly. So
Right.
I think it'll be great.
Well, that about the Brazilian team, but what about Chile and Venezuela? What can we expect from them? First, before you
Um,
answer that question, could you tell us where do Chile and Venezuela, their women's team, stand in with respect to the quality of the team that they put up usually at the international stage?
you no, I think because Chile in uh in 2018 no 2019 they also played a tournament in Brazil. I think pretty much the same tournament that they're playing this time around, and they won it.
Okay,
They won that
so that's
tournament.
Chile.
So they are good. And again, I think generally also in women's football, be it any country, I mean, they do struggle for game time.
Correct.
So I think that is pretty much the reason why Brazil is also fielding a full strength squad because
Got it.
these women get games pretty like anyway
Correct.
less games for them.
Got it.
So I think both Chile and Venezuela are also going to put their A team in. And if that is the case, India is in for a very
A
tough
hell of a ride.
tournament. Yeah, hell of a ride. Because Chile is even if we see in terms of ranking, Chile is only behind Brazil, Colombia, and Argentina in South America.
Got it.
And apart from Brazil, Chile is the only team to have qualified for every single Copa America,
Got it.
apart from Brazil. So yeah, I mean, and I just found a very interesting thing. I mean, Chile and
Go
India have
on.
actually played
Okay.
in 1994, and
All
Chile
right.
won it.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean,
Let's not talk about
it's quite.
revenge here.
No, definitely not. I don't think we have the liberty of thinking about revenge. I think we
Yeah.
should just think about playing well. If we can do that, it'll be great.
But I
Venezuela,
mean,
I think, can be close.
okay.
Yeah, because
Oh,
even in terms of ranking, I mean, Venezuela is just one spot ahead of us.
all right.
So, and they even they haven't like they've also never qualified for the World Cup from South America, even though they have qualified for Copa America next year.
Got it.
So yeah, I mean they're the good team, but I think that is one game where India can uh, go with a mindset where they want to do more than what they would
Got it.
get the
Got it.
liberty to do against the other two teams.
But I mean, looking at this competition as a whole, this seems like a step in the right direction because I say this because even in the Asian Cup, there will be instances where you would be without the ball. You would have
Correct.
to play the game to your opponent's pace. You'll have to play the game to the opponent's style and adapt to it. And games
Yeah.
against teams like Venezuela, teams like Chile and Brazil can help teach you that, right?
Correct. Absolutely. You're absolutely right when you say that because mostly in the Asian Cup, we're not going to have the ball. So we are going to have to learn how to, you know, press, because that is something that even Deneby has mentioned that which is why he is so focused on developing their strength and fitness.
Got it.
Because he would need them to press because that's the only way that they will be able to score, I feel, if they want to go that much. Obviously, I mean, Denby has said that he wants to make the quarterfinals. So if they are thinking of that, they would need to recover ball up front. So for that,
Got
their
it.
pressing has to be uh, to the T. So
Got it.
yeah, I mean, I think these games will help them attain some level of understanding of pressing, I feel.
Well, I think Abby, this chat gives at least me a clarity of what to expect from the Indian team. Before I let you go, I won't ask you to give me a scoreline of these three matches because that doesn't matter. But one question, I will leave you with one question. I just wanted to know what is that the Indian team should expect and should expect to take away from this match, these three matches.
From these three matches, definitely learning, like we just talked about, learning pressing, learning the game off the ball, um, learning more about spaces and holding shape, compactness, physicality, endurance. I think all of these things that they need to be focusing on when they're playing these games, and I think that's exactly what Denby also wants
Right.
from these games for the girls to take out, because I'm sure he's not going for results and all.
Right.
I'm sure he's just looking at these games as something that he'll use to teach, because obviously he'll have videos and everything, and he can
Got it.
sit with them and tell them, this is how you've got to be playing, because the level of competition that they're going to be in face in the Asian Cup would be pretty similar to what they're going to face in
Got
the
it.
tournament in Brazil.
Got it. So will we more performance driven than result driven, right?
Yeah, performance driven for sure. I think that is exactly what we saw in both the UAE tour and the
Got
Sweden
it.
tour as well. I don't think it was result oriented at all. I think he tested the players, he played them in a certain way, and you kind of saw that they
Got it.
were able to understand bits and pieces of what they are supposed to be doing on the field. So yeah, I mean it
Got
was
it. Got it.
refreshing.
Well, three matches for India starting next week. First up, Brazil on the 25th of November, then Chile on the 28th of November, and we end the tour with a match against Venezuela on the 1st of December. Abby, thanks a lot for joining us on this Insta chat. It was
My pleasure.
refreshing. It was great to have you on the show once again. We'll be back. We'll be back to talk more
Yeah,
football, more Indian football, because the men's season kicks in with the ISL on Friday. So there's a
all right.
lot of football to look forward to. So yes, we'll have Abby back on our regular show as well. Thanks a lot for joining us, and until we bring you the next episode, have a great time and enjoy the game, guys.
Thank you.